All right, guys, it's Tuesday morning. Welcome to Total Bases. I'm here with Tokyo Brandon, Bryan Leonard. This is a Major League Baseball interactive free pick show. We basically go off of what you guys say in the chat, and we'll hit as many games as we can over the next hour or so. Tuesday, which means we have a full slate of MLB. We've already got some people in the chat. G Hurt is here. Says, let's go. G Hurt, remind me what you wanted me to answer. I know you put a comment in a tweet or on the show yesterday, and I asked you to be more specific, and then I forgot what you asked. So put that in the comments, and we will get that going. Ethan says, happy Tuesday. Dylan Ward says, let's go. I'll tell you what, though. I'm going to bring up a game to start things off because I want to – it's a good talking point. So yesterday, I was on the Rockies, plus 1.5. When it got to like even money, I had to jump in. They go up 3-0 right out of the gate, 3-0 in the first inning, end up losing 6-3. And I'm kind of sitting there. Now, it's not like I've just been blowing money all year on the Rockies. I had a few wins with them. Last week, I lost a couple times with them. But as I'm watching this game, the 5th or 6th inning, I'm starting to say to myself, is this just a team to ignore now? Is this like, because there's going to probably be value on them every day, right? Like there's going to be line value on them every single day. Yesterday, I look and I said, so you're going to give me Rockies plus 1.5. Bryan Leonard, we've talked about this a million times. Their home road splits over the last couple of years on their home field against Bryce Elder, who I watched get demolished by AAA Charlotte in his first start of the year. And he's been up at the big league level. He's been awful. Comes out, 3-run bomb, 3-run bomb for Hunter Goodman, and the Rockies can't add anything the rest of the game. They did get a little bit unlucky. Like they've got Feltner out there pitching like with a back injury, and they're just like, yeah, the hell with it. We'll just leave him out there. Guys like spasming on the mound. They leave him out for 5 innings. I'll start with Bryan Leonard. Do you even look at this team anymore? Or are you just at the point where you're ignoring them?
Well, I didn't give out any official plays to clients, but I did do 2 hockey free plays and 2 baseball free plays, winning 3 of 4. And this was one of the ones that I won. I had Atlanta in this game. And I pointed out I did not like Elder, did not like the situation at all. But if you take a look at what Colorado has done on the season, they've won 4 games. They've been outscored by a ton. The White Sox have won 7 games. And the White Sox have only been outscored by like 25, whereas Colorado's was like 70-something. Colorado's a bad baseball team. Their ownership is bad. The fans are giving up on them. Yes, if you are going to play Colorado, you would play them at home. But it takes so much for me to get to that point right now. Their starters have not done anything. Unfortunately, their best starter that everybody thought was going to be really good has been promoted, and he's done nothing. So it makes you have to think about, it's a small sample size, but it makes you have to think about the recruiting and the what they do in the minor leagues for Colorado, that they would. When was the last time Colorado promoted? I mean, we just saw this out of one of their outfielders that they brought up, Zach Veen, and he lasted 2 weeks, did nothing. Maybe this team, just from the bottom up, from all the way down to single A, all the way up, is just not run well. They don't draft well, and maybe it's time that, like you said, maybe we're going to have to ignore them. Now, it's hard for me to do because I'm an underdog player, but this is a team right now that's making it so hard for you to want to bet on them.
Yep. Tokyo Brandon, what do you want to chime in there? And also, I guess it spills over to tonight. It looks like we're going to have Marquez against AJ Smith-Shawver maybe for the Braves. What do you think about all this? And is there any interest in this matchup for you?
Overall, Colorado is horrible. And I told you guys in our first show of the season, I said Colorado is going to be worse than the White Sox. They are.
You're right about that.
Yeah. And I'm not even believing the if you're going to play them at home narrative anymore, because they're 3-10 at home. Granted, 75% of their wins are at home. So yes, if you're going to plug your nose and play them at home would be the time. But I mean, they're missing Chris Bryant. They're missing Tovar. They're missing a bunch. They're missing the crappy guys that were the best in their lineup. So now they're replacing them with more crap. So it's crap on crap. It's like a sewer. They're a bad team, very bad. I used to like Marquez actually. I used to think he was all right. Freeman's not bad. They have a couple. They have a couple of good pitchers if they were on a different team, perhaps. But man, this team is bad. Bad. No, I'm not interested in playing today, though. Yeah.
The thing is super frustrating about them is that they have like a pretty solid bullpen. If you look last 2 weeks, their bullpen's probably like top 10, definitely top half of the league, maybe even top 10. But they never have a lead. They have no starting pitching. And I'll defend Ryan. I'll defend Feltner. He's actually been okay. And he was just a combination of like trying to pitch through back spasms and then just seeing eye single after seeing eye single for the Braves last night. Like that was a little unlucky, but still, yeah, I'm starting to get to the point where I just think like the Rockies are going to come up value every single day. They're going to be very tough to bet against because you're always going to be laying a premium. But I think after last night, the temptation to sort of jump in with them is probably gone for me. Go ahead, Bryan.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, and normally your thought process of playing the plus 1.5, that's what I do. I don't lay the 1.5. It's got to be an extreme situation. The problem is when you're playing the Rockies at home, you're looking at like today, you're looking at lines of 11, whereas the next highest on the board is Cincinnati at 9.5, and we've even got some 6.5. So when you're looking to take that 1.5, it lessens in higher scoring games. So it's not quite as important as it is if you're playing in, Seattle or whatever. If you could take a plus 1.5 in Seattle, I don't care what team's playing in Seattle, I'm going to be on that every time as long as you're getting good value. It doesn't in Colorado, the runs don't mean as much because there's more of them. So it makes it even tougher. And that's the way I would play Colorado is a home dog plus 1.5. But anymore, it's something that it's something that, that's the big thing about baseball is what worked in the past does not necessarily work in the future. And teams change. And we've seen that basically in every sport, your healthy teams win. Unfortunately for Colorado, even when they get healthy guys, they're having down seasons. Their top, 4 guys they were counted on coming into the season are all having horrendous years. And when you don't have a lot of talent in the first place, you've got to get the best out of your best players, and they just haven't gotten it this year.
Yeah, I mean, I knew they were going to be bad. I don't think everyone knew they were going to be a bad team, but this is like bad beyond even what I could have imagined. And especially with there's promising guys that are coming up. Like Beck's a good player. They have Tovar would be helping them if he was healthy, but man, it feels like they're so far off from like winning. Like, can you imagine this team winning back-to-back games right now? Like, it's like they're so far up, like they're going to luck their way into a win here and there, but it is like crazy how far off they are from like looking like a team that can even like play. And they're in the division. They're going to have to play all these games against the Dodgers, Padres, Giants, and Diamondbacks. It is they might top the White Sox for last year. I mean, at least at this point, it's bad. So I guess we kind of we kind of beat that one to death, and I don't think anyone's got any other real opinions on that Braves Rockies game. So we'll move on. I'll go to Bryan Leonard. This was G Hert's question that I couldn't remember from yesterday. And I said, bring it up today. How do you handicap travel, time zones, rest days, etc.? We'll start with Bryan Leonard.
A lot of it depends on where the travel is from. We were just talking Colorado. I made a comment on one of the things I did yesterday, talking about how hot the Cincinnati Reds hitters were, but they were coming out of Colorado, and it may take them a day to get back to where they were. Well, they scored 3 runs. They won the game, but the offense was down, and it wasn't because the opposition was beating them with a great pitching performance. It was that they were coming out of altitude. Now, When you go into Cincinnati, the altitude's not a concern. The ballpark is a concern, and the offense still perform very well. But it's been proven when teams come in and out of Colorado, it's something you got to keep an eye on. But a lot of it is, and I've done some research on this for teams that have had the day off and have not had the day off, and every year it seems to change. So it's some teams perform better and they get that day of rest. Other teams do not. Unlike basketball or hockey, baseball, your starting pitcher does not play every day. Your relief pitchers, for the most part, do not play every day. It's only the starting 9. So from a pitching standpoint, it makes it a little bit different than any other sport because you don't have the same guys going out there as you do in every other sport. Just the hitters do. So to me, it's a situation where it affects the hitters maybe more than it does the pitching in those games. I haven't done the research. If anybody else has research on that, I'd love to see it. But you have to take into account the travel a little bit. And if you're going from one coast to another, obviously it's a big difference. Many times we talk about Sunday Night Baseball going into Monday's games. That's a disadvantage for these teams, but it's accumulated into the line. So most of the things we'd like to think about is already in the line. There's people out there that are smarter than us and have this information, and it's harder to take advantage of it.
Yeah, the way I look at it is I think it's a little overrated in some cases. Where I do take it into consideration is if a game goes into extra innings the night before and then they have to travel, that takes a toll on people. But frankly, if a game ends at 9 p.m., they go back to the hotel. These guys are used to this. They're doing it for 6 months, or not quite 6 months, but they're doing it for 4 months. They're kind of used to it. The other thing I do worry about is if bullpens get used a lot, regardless of travel. So yeah, if you're using 5 guys from your bullpen, and like a opener for these opener games, late, early, it doesn't matter. That really takes a toll a lot more than travel, in my opinion. But yeah, when a game goes into extra innings, and as a matter of fact, I think I bet on one of these. I forgot which team it was. Maybe it was the Phillies or something. They went into, maybe it was the Mets like a week ago. They went into extra innings and then they had to turn around and play like an early game the next day. That kills you. Like Bryan said, though, the starting pitcher, they're just sitting there chewing gum. They don't care. But the hitters, yeah, that kills them. Extra innings and then turn around and play a game in another city the next day. That takes a toll. So yeah, I would cap it that way.
Yeah, I think you made a good point about the bullpens. I'm far more interested in like bullpen usage than I am like. Listen, these guys are traveling in style. Now, this isn't
all
like
the time.
It's not like
life.
Yeah, like if you go back like 10 years, you used to be able to print money if you in the WNBA, kind of following their travel schedule because they literally were flying on commercial, like they were traveling like you and I would travel. Sometimes connecting flights, and it was I remember instances where they were showing up a couple hours before a game after like 3 flights to get to the next city. It was really bad. But these guys in Major League Baseball are not dealing with that. So, it's again, I would agree with you, TB. It's overstated, and I think knowing what a team is going to do from a pitching perspective with their bullpen is the most important part. And that's the stuff where like longer road trips, a lot of times in the longer road trips, you're not always getting a day off. So if you're now getting into, the last leg of a road trip and like you've played 13 of the last 14 days, that's where I'm starting to look for like, okay, that there's, what are we looking at for bullpen usage? And is there going to be a crack here? And I think we can segue that into the A's right now, who are on the road playing against the Rangers. Nice 2-1 win last night, but now they're going to go up against DeGrom, and you're looking at Mason Miller's pitched the last couple days, Tyler Ferguson's pitched the last couple days. That's the type of stuff that I'm more concerned with travel, and then that's sort of what I'm looking for there. So we've got Rangers, A's. Rangers are up minus 190, but I'll go to Bryan Leonard first because you kind of brought this up. DeGrom maybe being a little bit overvalued in the early going here. I believe the A's beat him last week, if I remember correctly, or at least won the game that he pitched in last week. So now you got the rematch. For the A's, I'm not. Oh, I think it's Lopez. I think they called up Jacob Lopez, who's been okay for Vegas, but nothing special in my opinion. Bryan Leonard, start us off. Rangers, A's, and is that something you're taking into account here?
Yeah, I had the A's in that game, and they scored in the bottom of the ninth and got the victory. I'll take that. I was looking to fade DeGrom in that game. I thought he was getting too much credit, and if you look at his stats, he's still getting a little bit too much credit here. Although you mentioned the key point here, which is Mason Miller and Tyler Ferguson have pitched each of the last 2 days. Miller's pitched 3 of the last 4 days. So I think everybody knows that Mason Miller is the best pitcher on the A's. He may be the best. He's actually the best pitcher in baseball when you take a look at strikeouts. He's struck out more batters this year than anybody's got hit the ball off of him. He's just been tremendous all season long. And to take him out of a game like that we have to figure is going to be a lower scoring game because this Texas offense right now is terrible. You take a look at that lineup. Somebody made a comment yesterday. It looked like the coach put the names in a blender. They had like Berger hitting 7th, power guys hitting 7th and 8th. And right now Texas is just their offense is so bad. They have no clue. So I don't want any part of Texas. I don't care who's on the mound at this price. Want no part of them because they're not going to score. The best part in this game, I would say, would be the under. But then you've got the Athletics. If they do have that lead, they can't play their closer. So unfortunately, I don't think this game is going to make my card. I'm looking for ways to play against Texas, and but the matchup today probably just keeps me away from it.
I have a small play on the under here, and I'll tell you why. Both bullpens performing well. Like you said, though, the A's probably don't have their best 2 arms. Ryan made a good comment there. The pitch count isn't terribly high for Miller or Ferguson. Does it matter? It kind of does because teams are very reluctant to pitch guys 2 days in a row because these days baseball players are so fragile. They didn't used to be, but they are now. So it depends on the manager, and I haven't really been paying attention to the A's manager, how he uses his guys. I should be paying attention to that closer. But both bullpens solid. Texas couldn't hit the side of a barn if they tried. The X factor here is Jacob Lopez. But I looked a little closer. He did make one spot start against the Dodgers last season. He went 5 innings and allowed 1. So I think he's reliable enough against a lineup that just simply cannot produce. And both bullpens are solid enough. I think 8.5 is a little high. So I made a small play on the under 8.5 for this one.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if the situation comes up. If I remember correctly, they did try Miller on a 3rd straight day at some point last year. I want to say it's like the game. I think he might have got blown up in the 9th. Like it was, I think he got crushed. I think he gave up like 5 runs, maybe to like the Rockies. It was a weird game. I think it ended up in extra innings. It was a crazy game where he gave up like a 5 spot and then they like came back. I'll have to. I'm going off memory right there. But that is, I remember him like being out there maybe 3 times in 3 days. So I do think. I think if they get like right now, the A's can't afford to lose like this momentum that they've got going. I think if it comes out to it and he's feeling good, like he'll be out there in the 9th. So, I don't have like much of an opinion on the total. I will say that like Jacob Lopez has thrown it okay in the minors so far this year. 1.09 whip, batting average against is like 200. I actually have him on he's been climbing my player rankings as far as like pitchers in the minors. I've been pleasantly surprised at what I've seen out of him. So he's probably a little bit better than the market maybe gives him credit for here. A's plus 1.5 is minus 125. But my concern would be, and why I'm not going to play that and have no interest in playing that is if the Rangers get a lead, this might be a game where the A's are like, all right, we need to reset. Let's just go back into the rotation, guys. We'll take the loss and then we'll have everyone ready and ready to go for the next game. So that's kind of why I'm not like dying to bet the A's here, but something we talked about, A's, this lineup profiles nice against right-handed pitching. And they looked like they were having decent at-bats last week against DeGrom. Now you get to see him 6 days later. Goes back to another thing we've kind of brought up. You know, DeGrom, I think he's going to come. Like that start he had against the Dodgers was really impressive, but that had like a playoff game type feel. And I think in some
Didn't
of
he
these
go 7?
Yeah, he pitched great. He looked awesome.
Yeah, he went 7 innings.
I think he went 7. It was his best outing of the year. He was throwing 97, 98. I think in some of these lesser games, I just don't know. I think I'm going to revert back to what Bryan said, where he's kind of maybe not going 100%. Go ahead, Bryan.
You were talking about the schedule. They are in the middle of playing 16 straight games. They don't have another day off until the 8th of May. Without your best guys at the back of the bullpen, it could be, you don't want to assume. But if they get behind early, it may be one of those days where they let the bench guys pitch hit and get some rest. That was a good point. Very good point.
Go ahead,
Bryan,
GB.
you make a great point there that I forgot on my last comments about rest. When you don't have a day off for like a week or for like 10 days, that does affect them as well. So that is also something to consider. I've been around these guys when I was a scout, and they do get tired. They need days off once in a while.
There's a good in-game angle there, because if you know, like Bryan said, if you know you've got a stretch of 16 games and you fall behind a little bit against DeGrom, like, no, I'm not saying behind one run, but let's say it's 3-0 in the 5th. Like there's a good chance that's going to be an 8-2 final, right? There's a good chance that it's going to be it's going to be relief pitcher 7, relief pitcher 8, or 6 or 7, just eat up some innings. And that 3-0 could very well turn into like 9-3, because back into the bullpen, like Bryan said, maybe lift some of the starters, because you need to like give them a little bit of a breather if you know that you've got 7 straight games. And that is another point to be made, like about maybe they can't use Miller here, because you absolutely can't afford to use Miller and lose. If you're going to use Miller and Ferguson, or if you're going to go to them in 3 straight days, you have to win, because you have to know that you're not going to use them tomorrow. So maybe you don't see them. And that would kind of put me off wanting any part of the A's or the under, to be honest.
People don't want to think of it. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. People don't want to think like this, but managers actually do throw games away. I mean, they don't throw games, but they do say, all right, forget this one. Let's just get out of here.
They're just managing for the bigger picture. They're not throwing a game away. They're just looking at we have to survive 162 game season.
Down 3-0. Like yesterday, the Nationals, they left Williams in the game. He threw, I think, 100 and something pitches, and he was getting hammered, and they still left him in.
Right. And why is that? Why is that? Because they're playing tonight.
It's a throwaway.
They've got Mackenzie Gore on the mound. They'd rather reset and make sure they're fully intact for their best pitcher to pitch. We'll get to that. We'll get back to that game in a minute. Let's go to Durko. I know Durko was up watching KBO this morning, but he's going to be going to Pirates Cubs tonight with his company. So we got to get into this game, since he's going to have boots on the ground here. Pirates Cubs. I lost my place. Hold on a second. Okay, so we've got Imanaga, and then we've got Andrew Haney, who's like, I mean, incredible start for him. So we'll go to TB first, because this is your guy, Shota Imanaga, on the mound for the road team. Yeah, very jealous of Durko, by the way, getting to go to that gem of a ballpark tonight, PNC Park, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Beautiful ballpark.
But Imanaga, but Haney, yeah, incredible. It's really cool. Incredible place. Haney has a 1.72 ERA so far this year. He's looked tremendous, but is it going to last? Why don't you start us off, TB?
Yeah, he has good numbers against these batters as well, so that's something to take into consideration. However, it's something that I like to look at because I really focus on one-on-one matches. Perhaps it's because of my scouting background, but these histories against these batters so far this season has kind of been my Achilles heel in my capping. So I think I'm putting too much value on how this pitcher has performed against these batters in the past. Maybe I'm putting too much weight on it. However, Haney's having a great season. I think just a change of environment. I'm not really privy to how good the pitching coaches are in Pittsburgh, but something has lit a fire on him. Maybe he added a pitch or something, but he's been on fire. His over 17.5 outs is always an option, but the Cubs are crushing the ball pretty well. They were number 1 in MLB like a week ago. Right now, they've dropped in my rankings to about 8 out of 30 in MLB. Pirates are 15 hitting, 18 bullpen. So, but I got Haney ranked way higher than Imanaga, and I was looking for a regression for Imanaga this year. So yeah, I've pretty much got it a dead even tie. So if the line is just obscene, the Pirates plus 1.5 certainly would be a good option in my opinion.
I will disagree a little bit. Pirates are 3-12 this year against winning teams. The Cubs are undefeated and winless in the same time versus losing teams because they haven't played a losing team all year long. They're 17-12 on the season, and it's all been against teams with winning records. I talked about this last time I was on.
Padres, Dodgers, Phillies.
The Cubs have been extremely impressive. They're plus 39 run differential, which I believe is the 3rd in the league, and they did it all against winning teams. As for, I'm not the expert when it comes to props and that kind of stuff, but from what I've heard from talking to players, there isn't much correlation, even though they talk about it still on the games. This guy is 5 for 7 or whatever against this pitcher. There's no correlation in it that I have been able to find. So if you are counting on that, you may be looking into it a little bit more, need to look into it a little bit more. But Imanaga is not pitching well this year compared to last year. Haney's been great, but we've seen this out of Haney over the years in the past. He's been a serviceable starter, and if you have a career as long as his is, you're going to have these streaks where you're doing well. I know Pittsburgh for many years was considered a place that people could go, and they did an extremely good job in turning around their season. But when you take a look at the recent history, I don't think it has happened nearly as much lately as it has in the past. So I would prefer the Cubs in that game, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. But Imanaga has not pitched as well. Maybe it's a good better game to look at the over in. Who knows? We're looking at a total of 8.5 here. And it's more of a pitching stadium, but I'll see how it goes. It's early. I'm taking a fresh look at these early in the morning here.
Yeah,
I'm not betting this game, and some people are saying it might be canceled. Go ahead, Adam. Sorry.
Just to give Durko like a more matter of fact answer, like Pirates plus 1.5 kind of makes sense. Like that's my numbers certainly agree with that. It has moved like 10 cents since I think we got on the show. I thought I saw it like in the minus 123, minus 125 range. That looks like it's up about 10 cents. So, maybe taking a little bit of money there. I just like the way the Pirates have played over the last week more than like relative to the rest of their season. I thought they played good ball last week. I felt like, they could have swept that series in Anaheim, played well there and ended up, I believe they lost that last game like 4-3, gave up a run in the 8th inning, but still really good series there. Taking one in LA against the Dodgers is good, right? Like Skeens pitched a great game. They won the opener 3-0. And, that's, in my opinion, like that's, you go to LA as the Pirates and I believe the Saturday game was tied in the 8th inning. I think the Dodgers had like kind of a breakout inning late. So I thought they played well last week. And I think it goes back to like, they were making a lot of mistakes earlier in the year, a lot of errors, poor defense, and bad relief pitching, which they very much cleaned up. So the bullpen, in my opinion, for the Pirates is really cleaned up from what it was like first week of the season when they had like Bednar going back to the minors and was kind of a disaster. So I do think the Pirates just in general are some value right now relative to where they are placed in the market. I just know if I try, I just know if I try to step in with Heaney, he's getting bombed. Like I just That's just how it goes for me. This dude right now, his whip is 0.77. He's got an ERA of 1.72. How long, this is a guy that now, I mean, you go back to 2022, he had a season like that numbers wise for the Dodgers. Now, I believe his season was cut short from injury that year, but he had really good numbers before he got hurt. Last couple of years, though, he was very serviceable in Texas. Like, now that I'm kind of looking at his overall, numbers from the last 2 years, pretty serviceable guy. So who knows? Maybe he can keep it going. I don't know that there's like tons of regression looming for him, like I would think maybe some others. So I kind of like the Pirates here. +1.5 Pirates is I'm pretty confident saying that's my my pick in that game. Let's see what else we have in the chat.
Point about the Cubs, though, Brian makes a really good point. The Cubs have played the Dodgers 3 times. They've played the Padres. They've played the Phillies, and they're still 2 games behind the Dodgers as far as wins are concerned. So that's an amazing accomplishment. Once they start playing the crappers at the bottom, they're going to shoot. They're going to skyrocket. Yeah.
I did not have that off the top of my head that they have not played a team with a losing record yet this year. That is that's
the worst team to play was the A's
stat right there,
and the Rangers.
The great stat right there. All right, Kevin Paquette in the chat. I've got some opinions on this game. We're gonna head to Citi Field. Diamondbacks, Mets, a team that we the D-backs are a team that keeps coming up for us. We talked about some of their injuries and their bullpen issues last week, but I think the D-backs are about to get a little bit healthy this week. I believe Ketel Marte will be back at some point in this series, if I've heard correctly. If he's not back in this series, I think the goal is he will be back this week at some point. So I don't know that I expect him to play here because I don't know that they even run him out again. I know he's a switch hitter, but he's going to be up against a lefty tonight. But those are things I'm looking for this week, specifically for the Diamondbacks. They're going to get Marte back. And this team is brain dead if they don't call up Jordan Lawler right now. The dude is just
you keep saying
destroying everything at the mind. I mean, he's drawing walks. He's on base all the time. He's hitting for power. I don't know what else a dude has to, especially a guy like Jordan Lawler. He's not that young anymore. It's not like he's just got to AAA. This is a guy that's battled injury, that's has been on the cusp for a while. I don't know what you're doing. Not quite he should have been up a week ago. And I will call it out right here. As soon as they bring him up, he's going to make an impact. He'll make an immediate impact for this team. He is that locked in right now, in my opinion. So as far as the series is concerned, I'm looking at the Diamondbacks. I think there's a little bit of value. They're coming into this game. Mets played that 19-5 game yesterday. The concern is obviously the bullpen, and I'll let Bryan touch on that. But in this, just right now, Diamondbacks as an underdog makes some sense to me. Plus 125. I think that's not the worst bet. So I like the D-backs here. What do you think, Bryan?
Well, if you do call him up, who do you drop? Because as you mentioned, Ketel Marte is going to be back, I believe, on Friday. They said.
Isn't Tawa still on the roster? He should be back.
Playing great.
Is he? I haven't. Yeah, I didn't watch.
He's been very good. So then they would have to find a way to send him to the minors, and I don't think until he slumps you can do that.
Yeah,
because I'm in full agreement. It's they've got guys out there that are doing a pretty good job. You'd have to find somebody. I always wanted him to come up for the shortstop, but and he's struggling a little bit. But they just signed him to that 4-year contract before the season started.
Yeah, so you're right. Tawa bounced back. Tawa had a very slow start. So just to clarify, Bryan is right. Tawa was ice cold when they called him up, and he's picked it up significantly in the last week or so. So that's a good point. Yeah, maybe just no room for him, and obviously you want him to play every day. Sorry for cutting you off, Bryan. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to point it out. Do we buy Eduardo Rodriguez? He's been great so far, but he is coming back from Tommy John surgery. It's a small sample size. I'm taking it with a grain of salt every time he pitches because he did have that one big year. But other than that, he's been a good pitcher in Major League Baseball, but he hasn't been nearly as what he's been this year. His numbers have been outstanding. Take a look at his StatCast numbers. He's red all over. The only thing he's poor in is His off-speed run value is in the 10th percentile. Fastball velocity doesn't have it anymore. It's in the 17th percentile, but he's doing very well. He's still got a 4.40 ERA and a 1.29 WHIP, but if you take a look at his expected ERA, it's only 2.87. So there's some. He's pitching better than his numbers show, but it is a concern with me going up against a pretty good team here on the road, and it's something to keep in mind. But we'll have to see how this one goes. At this point, I don't know what to make of it, but we will see. Maybe Tokyo's got a better grip on this game.
My first instinct when I looked at this game, given the shambles that the Diamondbacks bullpen is in, and I've never been a fan of Eduardo Rodriguez, was to take the Mets team total over. But then I looked at it, it's 4.5, and they're at home. And if you look at Eduardo Rodriguez's numbers against the Mets, he's got 53, 54, 55 at bats against 164 batting average against and a 428 OPS, which is stellar. So admittedly, that's when he used to be a good pitcher and he's not anymore, in my opinion. But that was my first inclination. So I'm not actually going to play this game. But man, the Mets are really smashing the ball right now. I don't know how with that bullpen in tatters, I'd be really shaky to take the Diamondbacks here.
I talked about David Peterson for a minute last week, how something he said when he was up here in Syracuse last year is pitching pain-free. For the first time, he said in like 3 to 4 years, had hip surgery, which was what kind of derailed his season last year. I don't think he made his major league debut until like the end of May. So and he didn't really have a full spring. So that's something that stuck with me because again, you go back to Peterson, I want to say he was very highly touted prospect at one point.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, wasn't he a high draft pick, Bryan, at one point? I feel like he was like a
waiting
second
for the
round.
breakout and it never came, but he has pitched much better the last couple of years.
Solid. He's solid.
That's what I'm saying. He was he was a first rounder. That's right. He was a first rounder back in 2017. And so knowing that for a bulk of his professional career, he was battling a condition bad enough to have hip surgery, which is not as that's no joke. Hip surgery for someone that is in their 20s is no joke. And so, to know that he's now, you look at last year, which was pretty good. 21 appearances, 2.90 ERA, 1.29 WHIP. Actually had a very nice season for the Mets last year, which is even more impressive considering that he didn't really get, sometimes you see these guys that get a late start that don't really get a spring training. They usually get shelled for a month and then they're fine. So far, he's been pretty solid this season. So I haven't been dying to go against him. I just think the D-backs have a little bit of value. I'll probably wait till Marte is back to really try to find a good spot to bet them. But go ahead, Bryan.
Just a couple things. The Mets are 12-1 at home this year. They've done a terrific job in this ballpark. And I don't remember the exact numbers, but the Mets have set a record, I believe, for starting pitchers going at least 4 innings. It's been in 24 straight games or something like that. They've gotten pretty much quality starts out of every starting pitcher. The coaching has been tremendous in New York this year. So if you do like Arizona, maybe look to play the second half of the game if you trust the Arizona bullpen, which at this point I'm not trusting it as of late.
Well,
but the Mets have been very good in this ballpark this year, and it also helps when you've only played 9 games against teams that have a winning record. But I don't want to run that down. The Mets have had a really nice season so far.
Well, and the Mets have an elite bullpen. Arizona's bullpen certainly isn't better than the Mets. I mean, even if they're maybe better than they were when we were talking about them last week when Martinez was out and stuff like that, they're certainly not better than the Mets. So yeah, it's a tough one. You're probably, you're probably starting to pay a premium for the Mets at this point, but do you want to bet against them? It's almost the opposite of the Rockies, right? You're paying a little bit of a premium, but they've been that good, and it is tough to bet against them. All right, let's move on to Gary. So Gary Sorensen in the chat. Reds best bet tomorrow. Singer is fire. He's throwing the ball well right now. That is, I can't argue with that. He's 4-0. 3.62 ERA, 1.13 WHIP. He is someone I talked about coming into the season being high on. The Reds sort of revamped his pitch mix. They have introduced, he's throwing the cutter more, and he's having success with it. So yeah, I was very high on Singer coming into the season, and I played him with success. I backed him a couple of times early. I know I got a win with him over the Brewers in a game that they won. So yeah, he threw it well against the Marlins last week. Quality start, 2 runs over 6 innings. Matched the season high for strikeouts with 8 strikeouts. I'm with you, Gary. Like Singer's been great. I was pleasantly surprised to see Nick Martinez pitch well last night, and the Reds hold on to a 3-1 win. I thought that could have been a little bit of a flat spot for the Reds coming back. You want to go back to the travel point for a second. Coming back after sweeping Colorado, felt like they might be in a little bit of a flat spot. I did give out the under on first pitch yesterday, which hit easily, 3-1. So now you've got the Reds, 5 wins in a row, starting to look like the team. A lot of sharp people really like this Reds team coming into the year, and they could not get out of their own way for the first 20 games. Tons of mistakes, bad base running, kicking the ball around in the field. They've seemed to rectify some of that, and they now have 5 straight wins. So Bryan Leonard, is this team on an upward trajectory? Do you want to keep riding the Reds right now?
Yeah, you got 2 teams going in different directions. Remember, St. Louis got off to that great start to the beginning of the year. They've done nothing since. Miles Mikolas is a guy I'm usually looking to fade, especially in a good hitting ballpark like he's going to be in tonight. You take a look at his StatCast numbers. He's in the 1st percentile in whiff percentage, 5th percentile in strikeout percentage. When you're playing in a Colorado, you're playing in a Cincinnati, good hitters ballparks, you have to keep the ball from being in play. And this is not the guy to do it. You take a look at his ERA the last 3 years, 2023, 4.78, 2024, 5.35, this year, 5.70. They just said they're going to put Matz back in the starting rotation. They've got 2 high-quality guys down in the minors that will be coming up within the next month, I would have to say. Mikolas is pitching for his life in the major leagues right now. So that's something you have to consider in consideration. But how can you look to bet on St. Louis the way they're playing right now? And the Reds, I mentioned it. They've gone 2-3 weeks now where they've scored 3 or more runs in every game, including 24 against the Orioles. This offense is hitting well. They're back home. They got that through that last night and got the victory. Although the offense didn't do a whole lot, it did enough to get them the victory. This line is pretty cheap, if you ask me.
I'm actually my first inclination was to fade Mikolas. Looking at the Reds bullpen, they're performing horribly right now, so I would like to avoid that. So the first thing I looked at was Reds first 5 at -125 or something. But Mikolas is an easy punching bag. But if you dig a little deeper, look at his starts. I mean, he had 1 bad start against the Red Sox, but if you take that out, he has less earned runs in his last 3 starts than Singer does. He's pitching better than Singer if you take out his 1 clunker. So that's kind of scared me. And if you look how he performs against the Reds, he's been crushed by them. So, I get mixed signals here. And Mikolas actually is pitching quite well, actually. If you take that 1-8, he gave up an 8 burger or something like that in that game. He just got bombed by the Reds. Take that away, man. He's only given up 5 earned runs in 3 starts. Not bad. So I don't feel like punching him today. I'm going to stay away.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Mikolas is he's going to have a good one. I mean, the guy's been in the league since 2013. Like, he's going to have a good one here and there. You wouldn't be. He
pitched in Japan too once.
Yeah, had a stint in Japan. You wouldn't be have a 12-year big league career and in a starting rotation at this point in your career. If you didn't have a good one every once in a while, I will agree with Bryan. I mean, this is a guy that's had roughly a 5 ERA over the last 2 seasons. So I wouldn't put a ton of stock into him having a couple good ones in a row. that being said, like, he's a veteran. Like, he's one of these kind of, when we bring up Patrick Corbin, like, they battle. It's, these veteran guys that have been around for a long time, they seem to not get phased by stuff. They seem to just, like, they're not going to get guys on base and then just put one down the middle like some of these younger guys. So, I always like
those kind of guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I always look at that with the vet. I don't know who Bryan was referring to in the Cardinals organization, but Quinn Matthews has been a disaster at AAA. He can't throw a strike, and now he's on the IL, so he won't be up anytime soon. McGreevy has thrown the ball well. I think he's probably the logical guy to potentially take that spot. But yeah, I'm more anti-Cardinals, and I'm definitely pro-Reds right now. So I think the price is probably right, but I do lean toward the Reds there. Kevin Paquette, we did talk about that Rangers-A's game for a while. So as always, if we've already hit a game, this is up on demand. You can always go back and watch this on demand throughout. I think you can even rewind it while it's live. So
we talked about the Nats Phillies before we leave.
Yeah, I was just working through the chat, but yeah, let's let's go to someone wants to know. Dylan Ward wants to know if you've got the plum liquor ready, TB. I would say that's probably a Friday night thing, but who knows? Yeah. Maybe you're getting into it on a Tuesday. Never know.
I got to wake up early tomorrow.
Oh, I saw you responded right there. Let's do the chat. We have 15 minutes left, so we will definitely touch on Nats Phillies. Let's go to Royals Rays first. Love Royals +1. So this one's interesting because I thought, like, before I look at, I kind of go through the slate before I look at my projections. I try to like kind of formulate opinions before I look at the numbers, just to have an idea of like where I stand on the slate for the day. And the Rays was a team that I looked at this matchup and I said, okay, Rays at home, Royals maybe a little bit inflated. Just in general, they really weren't hitting with runners in scoring position. They had that series where they swept the Rockies, which is not as impressive as I think it maybe looks on paper. I've been a little bit higher on Taj Bradley than the market, but then I come and see this number, -160. I don't know if I'm laying -160 with the Rays against many teams in this league. So Slick Vic in the chat says, love Royals +1. We'll start with you, Bryan Leonard. What do you think there? Is there value on the Royals today?
Well, it's down to the 145, 150 range, which helps a little bit. But when you take a look at the leaderboards in WRC Plus, this is all included, lefty, righty. Colorado sits dead last at 65, which is just amazing when they play half their games in Colorado. Tells you how bad that offense is. But right above them, Kansas City Royals at 72, which is 28% worse than the league average.
Yep.
And you take a look at Tampa Bay's at 110. Now, Tampa Bay does play in that stadium down there, which is a good hitter's ballpark, but big differential in hitting here. Tampa Bay's got a lot of guys that are really contributing to that team all year long offensively. Some guys that they hadn't expected to, or maybe we'd given up on, but they've hit very well. That's my major concern for Kansas City, is that offense just has done nothing. In fact, you could take literally the worst teams for the WRC Plus: Colorado, Kansas City, Chicago White Sox, Pittsburgh, the Angels, and Texas. Yeah, they're all struggling right now, and they're all teams that I'm looking to avoid offensively. Kansas City is a team coming into the season. If this line had come out opening day, I would be all over Kansas City, even with Lorenzen pitching, who was maybe a 4 or a 5. Taj Bradley's a guy that the critics seem to like a lot better than the betting public. There's a lot of guys out there that are in the industry, fantasy baseball and all that. They've always liked Taj Bradley, but he's been very inconsistent, and that is always a concern. The total in this is 9. Don't know the weather situation in Tampa. I know somebody mentioned earlier that there's some games that could be affected by the rain today. Bradley's the better pitcher, and they are playing at home. But that line is still, even at less than 150 range there, it's still a little bit higher than what I'd like to play.
For me, all things considered, I have Kansas City hitting the ball a little bit better than the Rays at the moment. I got the bullpen. Tampa Bay has a slight advantage. And my rankings, I have Lorenzen and Bradley dead even at 15 out of 30. So to me, this is a stalemate. But looking at the number, like if you could get a plus 140 or better with the Royals, it's certainly a good play value-wise. They're hitting the ball better than the Rays. I have the Rays ranked 22 out of 30 teams in hitting right now. So it would be worth a shot. I'm not going to do it because anytime you have two teams just stalemated, I don't see any betting advantage.
I got to disagree with that. I think there's a pretty clear edge for the Rays here. I just don't know if it's a minus 150 edge. Like I think I'd be happy to lay like minus 120 with the Rays in this spot. And I'll be interested to see like where the market bets this to. I would disagree. The Royals offense is not better than the Rays. I think it may rate out better in some categories, but when you look at like if you watch the Rays, it's like Simpson being able to get on base and then being able to just like sort of be scrappy and manufacture runs. I think they're doing like the Royals really aren't doing that. They haven't really hit well with runners in scoring position. I think the Rays are much better. Like their pitching staff top to bottom is very solid. Like you look at these starters, I have Bradley rated ahead of Lorenz. And I also think Bradley has more upside. Fastballs like 97, 98s looked really good. And I would much rather have the Rays bullpen. I think you who watch these two teams, the Rays like play winning baseball. I'm not sure that the Royals yes, they've had a really nice run. They've got some really good starting pitching over the weekend against the Astros. There's back-to-back 2-0 wins. Lost the game yesterday. I think they're a little bit inflated right now. Like Bryan was saying, that Royals series, like sweeping that team means nothing at this point. So I was really hoping I like the Rays in the spot. I just like minus 150 seems like the books sucked all the value out of this one, unfortunately.
Same number of wins for both teams. They both have 14 wins. So,
yeah, it's April. Doesn't really matter.
Getting back to Brandon's thoughts on the Royals hitting, I went back and set the start all the way back to this month, April 1st. And Kansas City is dead last, 66 in WRC plus, 3 worse than Colorado. No, they're not hitting well. I don't want any part of this City offense.
We're better than Tampa at the moment, in my numbers.
Yeah, but Tampa, like I said, Tampa is doing things that don't always show up in those numbers. Like that, ever since they brought Simpson up, I mean, he's fast as hell. They put pressure on opposing teams with team speed. They'll play some small ball. They seem to get the timely hits, certainly more than Kansas City does. The Royals are getting 0 timely hits this year, not like they were last year. Felt like the Royals, whenever they needed that knock last year, they got it. They really haven't gotten it this year. Again, that could shake out over the course of time, but I think where these two offenses are right now, check back in a month. I bet the Rays are far more productive a month from now if you look at the whole season than the Royals are. I think the Royals
current status is important. Yeah, current form is important.
Ethan Bainbridge, we did talk about these two games. He likes the D-backs and the A's for tonight. Nice plus money on dogs. I kind of agree with you on the D-backs. I'm not going to play either of those, but we did talk about those two games. Let's go to William Bennett. What about the Tigers? This is an interesting matchup right here. Tigers, Astros. Astros won yesterday's game, the series opener. Tigers playing coming into this series as hot as any team in the league, playing as well as any team in the league, really. Still 18-11 after yesterday's loss. I say it's an interesting matchup because you've got a guy here in Ryan Gusto who's looked very, very good since getting called up to the big league level. Better than I thought he would based on watching him at Sugarland for a while. Then you've got a guy in Reese Olson who got off to a slow start, but I believe Brian Leonard was saying no, this dude's going to be fine. Like he's solid. His last 2 starts, 12.1 innings, 0 runs, 12 strikeouts. He's cut down the walks. So Brian Leonard is do the Tigers have some value here? Olson's looked really good the last couple starts, and they look like a good baseball team, the Tigers do.
Yeah, they are. In fact, if you take a look at net runs on the season, they tied the Yankees number 1 at plus 42 on the year. And I don't think a lot of people would think that of Detroit. I didn't think too much about the Detroit offense coming into the season. I thought they only had 2 good players offensively. Everybody seems to be working together And they've got guys that are willing to bunt. They've got guys that are willing to sacrifice their numbers for the better of the team. And that's the kind of team you want to play on. Gusto was a guy who I didn't think was going to be anything special, but he's actually done very well. His strikeout percentage, 25.6, walk percentage, 4.4. That's excellent. He's been very good, but he has been hit hard a little bit. But so is Olsen. When you take a look at his numbers, his hard hit percentage is 48.7, and Gusto's is 49.2. But because we have more of a track record for Olsen, I prefer Olsen in the game. The problem is most of Detroit's success this year has been at home. They have a losing record when they've gone on the road. A lot of people have written off Houston. They're not hitting like we were expecting them to do. They've got some quality players out there. Obviously, they've not the same teams that's been the last few years. They couldn't afford to keep them, but it's a tough game for me as two teams I think I want to play on, but I'm not getting the numbers that I want. I would play Detroit if I could get a 120. Best I see out there is maybe a plus 108 right now. I'll wait and see what happens. I prefer Detroit, but just not seeing the value. There's people out there that obviously are starting to recognize that the Tigers are a pretty good ball club, and we're just not seeing enough value for me to get involved.
I'll make mine quick. I don't know enough about Me Gusto Cerveza to make a play on this. I have them dead even in hitting. I have the Astros an advantage with the bullpen, but both bullpens above average. I have Reese Olson ranked fairly high as far as a starter. I just don't know enough about Gusto to make a play on this game.
I agree with basically everything Bryan said. Detroit, I was way down on them offensively coming into this year. But again, they are sometimes it doesn't show up in the numbers, especially when you're looking at numbers one year to the other. Like they hit situational hitting is very good. They're getting the timely hit. They're just a scrappy team. They're outside of 2 through 4. Like I don't know that any of these guys are all-stars, right? Like, but they're all just having productive at-bats. And if you can string productive at-bats together, and then you combine it. I said this before this. The Tigers said they left Justin Henry Malloy in Toledo to start the season. They said pitching and defense. We're building a team around pitching and defense, and we're going to sort of let the offense figure itself out. Now, first couple weeks of the season, the offense was struggling. And then so we were all like, oh, Tigers have a terrible offense. They're going to struggle. But this is kind of what the Tigers said that they were going to be this year. And now they're sitting there 18-11. The pitching's been great. The defense has been great. And they've figured out, they've played some platoons, played some matchups. They're figuring out how to get offense from places. They called up Jace Jung, who's going to probably be a really good player. They quickly brought Henry Malloy up because they needed some offense. And, they've kind of figured it out. And if you've got two of the three, like if you've got the pitching and you can feel the baseball, and then you can get some offense, like you're going to be a pretty good team in this league. I think that's what we've seen with the Tigers to this point. So I think they're still kind of maybe undervalued here. I played against them over the weekend once, and I regretted that decision because it was timely hit after timely hit, nice play after nice play, and they won the game like 4-2. And I think that's what you're going to see a lot of from the Tigers. All right. I'll go to TB first because he said one of our chat says Tokyo, Adam, and of course Bryan. It's $5 Tuesday. Do you have a Major League Baseball play for $5 Tuesday? TB, why don't you tell the folks what you have up?
I should have one out later. Right now, all I have is my TB 3 days for $39. If I do have a play out later, I will put. You'll find it on my page. As of this point, I don't have a $5 play up yet.
Yeah, I do have a 5% play up. It was a game I thought the line was going to move. And so if you can get it as soon as possible, better chance to make some money on your bankroll. Yeah, I passed yesterday in baseball. Been on a really good run, although Sunday I did have a losing day, but been very good on baseball and number one all time in MLB net profit. So it's $5 for our best play on today's card.
I will anything I put out in Major League Baseball will get the $5 designation. It will be part of the promo. Right now, though, I have through Wednesday night, I have my whole baseball season, full Major League Baseball season through the World Series at like over 50% off. So it'll probably be the lowest. It'll be if you're interested in long-term and getting a savings like that on like a long-term package, it is as cheap as it will be all season. Like I don't think WagerTalk's going to let me run this again. Like ever. I think they usually let us each run something like this like once every once in a while. So that's going to be up for the next 3 days. That is the full MLB season. Comes out to about $2 a day. So that it, and again, I'll probably use I'll probably use whatever baseball play I settle on for $5 Tuesday. Let's see. Let's go one. We'll get you guys one more before we get out of here.
Gotta be the Phillies.
All right. TV is going to override the chat. He really wants to talk.
No. It's okay. It's okay. No, actually, no. Let's go with the chat. Sorry.
So we'll no, that's okay because I was going to like just go surf for a random one. But I think Nats Phillies is an interesting topic because Dave Laughlin, Adam, you talk way too long, way too much. You must be new here. Got to be new here. That's all I have to say about that. Anyway,
someone said Adam talks.
I'm also getting used to being a host. So give me a break. This is like my 4th show hosting. I need Drew Martin to come back and do this so I can just talk about the game. But we got Nats Phillies, Zach Wheeler, Mackenzie Gore. Nats got beat by 2 touchdowns yesterday. We'll start with UTB because this is the game you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, 2 great pitchers right now. I have on a scale of 30, I got Wheeler ranked 6 and I got Gore ranked 9. 2 horrible bullpens, though, at least in current form. Washington's bullpen's ranked almost dead last, and Philadelphia's is in the bottom 1/3. This is a lot of statistics rolled up in a taco, and it puts a lot of weight on current form. So these numbers are very fluid, just like my Royals hitting numbers are fluid. This is very based on current form because we know that baseball players are very streaky. They go up and down real quick. Torkelson started the season like a fireball and then, faded out. Now he's back. So things are up and down. I have the hitting very mediocre for both of these teams. But at first glance, you would think, wow, Zach Wheeler, he's awesome. He's not exactly awesome. The batting is not exactly awesome either. He's not overrated like Aaron Nola is, but yeah, 6 out of 30 is not bad. Mackenzie Gore is pitching out of his mind, though. He didn't pitch like this when he was with the Padres. He didn't pitch like this before. He's doing really well. The bullpen is a concern. I think the first 5 under is the way to go in this game because we got 2 stellar starters and we got 2 lineups that are just toiling in mediocrity, as I like to say in my WagerTalk videos. So I really like the first 5 under in this one. If you can get a 4.5, that would be wonderful. But even a 3.5, I think, would be an under in this one.
I've got nothing on the game, but
Brian, do Twins Guardians. Someone asked about Twins Guardians. Throw something out about that one.
I just want to point out for Dave Laughlin, when you mentioned earlier, he says, I was talking about this team for a minute, and I'm thinking that'll be the first time if you spoke to him about a minute because you got a lot of good information, and you do talk about, but it's all good information. Twins Guardians, I want no part of either one of these pitchers. It would probably be an over, but Minnesota's starting to hit a little bit, but this Cleveland offense is horrendous. I would play Cleveland team total under if I was to play anything in that game.
And I will finish because I want to make sure basically anyone that asked something in the chat gets addressed. Someone wanted to talk about the Mariners. The Angels is interesting here. Now, I would have loved a better price on +1.5, but this will be the first series that Kochanowicz has not followed Soriano in a while, I believe. And because, of course, this is the first game of the series. I thought that was negatively affecting him, having to pitch behind Soriano. I feel like they have 2 similar, I think it was doing Kochanowicz a disservice to have to go after Soriano because Soriano has better stuff and they throw similar stuff. But he pitched well last week. He's pitching in Seattle. Now, Seattle's been tremendous, but my gut tells me the Mariners are going to cool off a little bit at some point. And maybe it's here. The Angels are just a bad baseball team, but in this case, you're talking +160. Like, I have no interest in laying $1.80, $1.85 with the Mariners. I don't think they're that yet. So I would lean Angels as a potential live dog today. I just wanted to comment on Angels Mariners there. All right, we are 5 minutes over time. So the rest of our stuff, you'll have to go over to WagerTalk. Check out $5 Tuesday. Like I said, I had that special. All of us will have something up today. But don't worry, we'll be back 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. And if, of course, this is up on demand. We've hit a lot of the Tuesday board. So feel free to go back and check out the full episode. But yeah, 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, back live here for another episode of Total Bases. Hope everyone has a great day. We'll see you guys tomorrow.